Hello, and welcome to the House of Law. Tonight, we begin with a slow step into a quiet world, hidden beneath the canopy of leaves and whispered through the trunks of ancient trees. This is a place where time drifts gently, like dust caught in golden light, where shadows stretch soft and long across the warm ground. Here, among the tall grasses and winding rivers, live the giants of silence. In this first part, we will listen carefully to the space they call home, and feel how the rhythm of their days brings peace to the land. Close your eyes, if you'd like, and imagine the hush of early morning, a pale sun rising through mist, birdsongs scattered like soft brushstrokes, and beneath it all, quiet movement in the grass, a gentle rustle, a low breath. Elephants, patient, calm, steady. Their lives move like slow water, shaping the land, touching the trees, but never rushing. Elephants do not tiptoe, yet their presence touches the world as though they do. Let us wander with them, slowly and without words for a while. The first place to settle our thoughts is the savanna. Wide, gold, whispering with dry winds. Here, elephant paths crisscross the earth, like winding stories told by silent travelers. They know each bend, each grove, each stream that snakes through the dust. Under the sun, they walk in lines made from memory, their feet soft on the ground, despite their size. And near them, everything listens. The trees sway, the grasses lean, even the birds hold still. It's easy to forget how large they are until you stand near one and feel the weight of their stillness. Yet there is no threat in them, only quiet presence. In their footsteps, time slows. The matriarch leads the way, her ears like sails, wide and calm. She remembers every watering hole, every tree with sweet bark, every safe resting hollow. Behind her, little ones follow, trunks swinging, eyes full of sky. The herd moves as one breath, pausing and continuing, together. And in the hush between their steps, the land seems to sigh. Of course, they do not only live on the open grasslands. Some have wandered into forests, dappled with shade and birdsong. Thick with scent and color, these woodlands are cooler, deeper, and the elephants adapt, just as they always have. Here in the forests, they become shadows among trees. Their movements even slower, deliberate, thoughtful. They feed on fig leaves and bark, pluck low branches, and clear paths with ease. They leave arches in the branches behind them, silent trails that only they can read, while the forest holds their stories in moss and footprints. And still, each step feels deliberate, peaceful, and full of memory. In both places, whether beneath the open sky of the savanna or wrapped in the hush of the woodland, elephants are more than just part of nature. They carry the past in their minds, the future in their footsteps. Tonight, we begin to follow them, lightly, listening. We will go gently where they go, with quiet wonder in our hearts. And along the way, we might find that something in us softens with each story. They leave behind. They are its pause, its echo, its soft strength. They shape the land, not with force, but with patience. Thank you for being here. If you are enjoying this journey, take a moment to like or follow or share with someone who might drift gently into slumber alongside these stories. There is much more to explore. But for now, let your thoughts settle, as if among distant trees. Let the world quiet, while elephants walk softly in your dreams. In the golden hush of an African dawn, the savannah slowly stirs. Spread wide beneath an open sky, this vast, sunlit grassland becomes the stage. Here, we find families of African elephants moving in slow unison, trunks swaying softly, ears flicking in the breeze. The savannah is only one part of the story. Some elephants choose the dappled quiet of dense forests. Among tangled vines and misty undergrowth, forest elephants wander in smaller groups, quieter, more elusive, and still others call the dryness of desert home. In Namibia's ancient reaches, desert elephants walk across wind-scoured sand, seeking water with patient determination. These different landscapes craft different ways of life, yet each is stitched together by the rhythm of the herd. The African elephant, largest of all land animals, comes in two forms: the wide-eared savanna elephant and the smaller, more secretive forest elephant. Then, far to the east, in the warmth of Asia, another cousin roams, the Asian elephant, smaller still, with curved backs and rounded ears. They move through bamboo forests, along jungle paths, through tea-laced hillsides. Three kinds of elephants, each shaped gently by their environment, and all of them forever connected to the land they cross. Mothers, daughters, sisters, living together in tightly woven units. In Africa's sunlit plains, you might see 10, 20, even a few dozen moving, as one. In the forest, smaller groups keep closer together, every sound, every footstep softened by leaves and light. Across all these places, one truth remains. Their lives move with the seasons. When rains fall, grass grows tall and rivers fill. Families gather at waterholes. When the dry months stretch long, they travel again, carefully choosing paths that memory has drawn over generations. Some herds may travel 100 miles across faint trails. From one familiar place to another, migration is not aimless, it is purposeful, shaped by knowledge passed between mothers and daughters. Old matriarchs guide the way. They know where water once was, where shade lingers, where danger might dwell. And so, across the savannah, through dense forests, or under the burning desert sky, the elephant family moves, steady, enduring, connected by invisible threads of knowledge and trust. Home, for an elephant, is not one single place. Beneath the soft shimmer of a morning sky, a herd of elephants moves slowly across the savannah, silent except for the deep hum of footsteps on dusty earth. At the center of this gentle procession walks the matriarch. She is the oldest female, wise from many seasons of travel, and memory. Her mind a map of terrain, water, and stories, told not through words, but gestures, rhythms, instinct passed down over lifetimes. Matriarchs carry the heart of the herd, knowing where to go after a drought, when to move, when to wait, and how to keep everyone safe. Around her, daughters and sisters walk close, forming a circle of kin that raises and protects the youngest among them. Young calves wobble on unsteady legs, their steps uncertain, guided gently by trunks, nudges, and patience. Older sisters are the first playmates, running beside the little ones, showing them how to use their trunks, how to bathe in cool mud, how to keep close to the group and wait at the right times. Aunties and cousins offer more than play. They serve as guardians, surrounding the calves when predators are near, comforting them when the path becomes long or stormy. Their care is quiet and enduring. A soft touch here, a shielding body there. Love not spoken, but woven into the fabric of their movement together. It is a landscape of memory, of shifting seasons, of shared wisdom, and in that space, family holds them together. A constant presence beneath ever-changing skies. In this family, each member plays a part. The calves learn without being taught, through mimicry and shared experience, following the lead of those who walked before them. Just as the matriarch once followed her mother, and her mother before that, the rhythm of the day is shaped by this ancient choreography. Grazing, resting, playing, learning. Sometimes the herd pauses near an old tree, its thick trunk familiar to generations. There, the younger elephants might wrestle gently while the elders rub their brows against the bark. Between actions, big and small, lessons form like ripples, echoing through time. And when one calf becomes frightened by a bird calling overhead, it is not only the mother who responds, but all nearby sisters, turning back, extending trunks, standing near until the fear fades. The presence of the matriarch is a calm current running beneath every day, her quiet leadership shaping the future mind of the next in line. For when she eventually slows, and her time gently ends, her wisdom will have passed into the bones of others through observations made, quietly, and moments shared under sun, cloud, and starlight. But not all elephants walk forever within the herd. Young males, as they grow, begin to wander away. Their steps become slower to match, then slightly apart, and eventually they part ways completely. Their path is a different one, solitary, reflective, shaped by silence. More than story. In this circle, no calf is left unseen, yet they do not forget. In those early years within the softly circling herd, they too were cradled by guidance and care. And for some time, they may travel with other lone males, forming loose groups, bonds not as strong, but still companionable, still shaped by what they learned early, through the shared language of nudges and stillness and time. In the quiet of distant hills, these males continue their journey, but the circle they left behind remains whole. And within it, new calves begin, a timeless rhythm, ever renewing, never hurried, never alone, never alone. In the warm stillness of an African dawn, somewhere among the tall grasses and low trees, a young calf is born. The calf arrives, wet and blinking under the early light, tasting the air for the first time, and finding its mother by feel and scent. She lowers her head slowly, wraps her trunk around the calf's wobbly frame, lifting and nudging, guiding its legs till it stands just enough to fall and try again. Each stumble is a step, and behind it, a soft rumble of encouragement. The herd gathers close, a circle of patience and purpose, older females watching, waiting, some swaying gently from side to side. Birth for elephants is rarely a solitary act. It is met with open trunks and low rumbles, a social moment, embraced by generations of wisdom, mother and calf. Their bond begins here, rooted not only in blood, but in breath, in the steady rhythm of touch and time. She will not leave its side for many months, barely sleeping, always aware. The older sisters and aunts, the matriarch too, they take turns caring, watching, lending support. Among elephants, every birth is a communal act of continuity, a shared promise. As days grow and time softens, the calf becomes more than a follower. It becomes a seeker. It learns first by play. With its trunk, it drums on stones, tosses leaves into the air, startles birds, and occasionally itself. It rushes toward nothing, just to feel what running means. Then stops, puzzled but grinning. If elephants could grin, truly, older calves slow their movement near the younger ones, and the smallest learn to mimic the elders. By watching the adults, they begin to understand the language of trunks and posture, the communication that flows without words. An ear lifted just slightly, a trunk drooping just. So, each gesture carries meaning. And when danger stirs, a sudden wind, a distant roar, nearby, another young one joins, and the game becomes a dance of tugging ears and bumping sides, shouted in little trumpets and deep notes too low for our ears. Through these games, the calf learns boundaries, balance, beginnings of empathy. There is no school in the wild, only observation. And yet, the lessons are deep. How to find water hidden beneath dry riverbeds, how to strip bark from a tree gently so the tree may grow again, or how to greet an elephant returning after a long absence with slow steps and many low rumbles. The younger elephants feel the shift before they know the cause. By looking to their mothers, they learn what fear looks like and what safety means. Learning through example is essential. The mother is the first teacher, but the herd is the classroom. Each memory passed gently from trunk to trunk, step by step. The young watch closely when the herd mourns a fallen one. They see the adults touch and linger, hear their low harmonic cries, feel the stillness of grief shared, and they remember. For elephants do not forget easily. Even the very young quietly carry with them the stories of their kind. In silence, they listen to the earth. In play, they begin to understand who they are. And in the closeness of their bond, they learn the blessing of presence. The young and the gentle, cradled by wisdom, growing in patience, little mirrors of the whole. When a matriarch calls to her herd, she sends out a deep, gentle vibration, her message flowing like a slow pulse across the open plains. Scientists call it infrasound, a frequency so low it falls below the range of human hearing. But, to the elephants, it is a thread of connection, strong and steady, even when the herd is miles apart on their ancient paths. And this connection carries more than just simple signals. It carries feeling, memory, and time. When elephants mourn, their calls change, growing slower, quieter, pulsing not just through the ears, but through the ground itself. They surround the bones of a lost one, brushing trunks gently over what remains, not just out of curiosity, but reverence. They know who it was, and in some way they remember. Years may pass, and still, when they cross paths with the same place, elephants will stop. They turn toward the bones, reach out again, and pause. A pause that feels like a silence filled with meaning. It is not only the old who remember. Young calves learn the places too. They follow the elders' pause, mimic the gesture, and in doing so, the memory lives on. Grief, too, travels. In that low vibration, across the plains and through generations, but there is joy carried in those underground threads as well. When two family groups cross paths after a long separation, the glow in their reunion is unmistakable. They run toward one another, their ears fanning wide, trunks lifted into the air, trumpets layered with deep, rumbling sounds. Some of the infrasound is celebratory, like a warm sigh pressed into the soil. They touch heads, intertwine trunks, lean into one another. It is a greeting filled with memory, layered with the kind of recognition that cannot be faked. Because elephants, they do not forget. And in their reunions, you see the thread of time pulled together again. Elephants speak with their feet, with low, rumbling tones that carry for miles through the ground itself, long before our ears can catch a sound. Older elephants sometimes guide their herds back to places known long before. Waterholes their mothers once led them to, paths etched into their memories by years of walking, learning, remembering. Along the way, the younger ones follow, trusting the slow rhythm of the matriarch's steps. Through their communication, elephants pass more than calls. They pass feeling, identity, love, and sorrow. Their voices, whether rumbling through the air or humming along the earth, offer a quiet reminder. That memory itself can live, can move, and can comfort. Even in silence, they are. Never alone. Beneath the hot breath of the savannah sun, and deep within the jungles where green shadows rest, the elephant moves without rush or resistance. Great in size, yet soft in sound. From the outside, one might imagine them to be loud creatures, commanding the landscape with sheer presence. In her footfalls, there is a wisdom not spoken but deeply known. But the truth is quite the opposite. These deep rumbles can stretch out for many miles, singing to the feet of distant elephants who feel the vibrations through the soles of their broad, padded feet. Communication, not through air alone, but through the very bones of the earth. A mother gently rumbles to guide her. Calf, not shouting, but humming through her body. A matriarch might reply from far beyond the horizon, a tremor that we cannot hear, but that others like her instantly understand. They carry intention, emotion, and meaning. A soft reassurance, a call to gather, a warning of danger, each layered with feeling known to those attuned to the dirt and stones beneath them. And when words aren't enough, elephants use touch. A gentle brush of the trunk across a sibling's back, a careful nudge to comfort the young. Elephants speak in tones the human ear cannot hear. Low, long, and rich, they produce infrasound that travels over vast distances, rippling through the ground like the echo of a mountain's memory. These infrasounds are not chaotic, nor random. Even their faces, large and weathered with time, express subtleties as soft as a sigh. Eyes that narrow slightly in care, ears that shift in empathy, trunks that sway not with force, but with a tender rhythm. They raise their trunks high, intertwine them like branches in the wind, and emit a warm chorus of rumbles and quiet coos. Their trunks, though powerful enough to lift logs or strip bark, show restraint. Like fingers, they explore with sensitivity. A newborn calf learns the world. First, by being touched, and then, by touching in return. Nudges as soft as breathing. Tips of trunks following the outline of a loved one, like tracing a memory. a whisper made of skin and time, and in moments of grief, they whisper still, touching the bones of those who walked before them, holding silence like a sacred song. Power lives in every part of them, yet it is matched by a quiet knowing, an understanding that strength, when used with care, can become its own kind of voice. There are moments when an elephant will greet another after time apart. In their calls, their steps, and their silences, elephants speak not only to each other, but they speak with the earth itself, listening, always listening, to the world beneath their feet. The trunk of an elephant is a marvel, a bridge between breath and strength, touch and tenderness, long and muscular, yet dipped in gentleness. It can lift a tree branch or cradle a flower. This single appendage is made of over 40,000 muscles, no bones at all, only precision and purpose. In it lives an ancient balance, a power that does not crush, but carries. I think there is something quietly profound in that, to have such strength and choose gentleness anyway. The elephant's trunk is often the first thing to move. When a young calf is born, it lowers to greet, to nudge, to comfort. They lift the young up when they struggle. They guide them with just a touch, a curl, a coax of reassurance. Adults use their trunks not only to eat and drink, but to help others do the same. You'll find them reaching out to a calf that cannot reach high branches, or splashing water over one that is tired and sun-warmed. This is not random behavior, it is compassion written into the shape of muscle and memory. They care in action, not just intention, carrying, lifting, sharing. An elephant's trunk can gently remove a thorn from another's foot, or clear an old branch from a watering hole so others may drink. What a lesson that is! To use your greatest strength in the service of others, to be large and move softly. There is a quiet poetry in how they move. Grace lives in their heaviness, as though the land itself welcomes their steps. And that grace becomes even more evident when storms come. A mother elephant, weathered but watchful, will raise her trunk to test the air, then guide her, calf between her legs, shielding it with a barrier of love and flesh. It's not flair or instinct alone. In the cool hours before dawn, you might see them walking slowly, trunks swaying just above the earth, touching companions, holding trunks like hands. It is memory remembered in the muscles, protection formed from empathy. Sometimes a young one stumbles, and before it cries out, a nearby aunt or elder will reach down, wrap their trunk gently around the little one's belly, and lift it to its feet. No harshness, no reprimand, only the message. I see you. I see you. I am with you. And in those moments, the air feels softer, like the earth pauses in appreciation. How often in the world do we associate strength with force, with domination or control? But elephants quietly teach us otherwise. True strength does not demand to be seen. It reveals itself only when needed, and even then it chooses restraint. The trunk of an elephant can pick up a single blade of grass or wield the weight of a fallen tree. Yet it more often chooses connection. To greet, to soothe, to comfort a cry or still a storm within the herd. Some might say that their trunks are instruments, I believe. They are bridges. Bridges between will and action, between self and other, between strength and grace. Each time an elephant reaches out with its trunk, it's not just using a tool. It is practicing kindness, in visible form. That is, in many ways, what we look for in our own lives. A way to show care, not just in words, but through outward signs of empathy. Their trunks give us a soft nudge in that direction, quietly reminding us that true power lies in the gentlest of gestures. The elephant's trunk is more than a nose, more than a hand, more than a simple limb. It is a true wonder of nature. Inside, there are no bones, only muscle. And more muscle still, over 40,000 individual muscles. Intricately woven together, this extraordinary structure stretches from the elephant's upper lip to the tip of its powerful nose, a long, shifting extension of its very self. The trunk begins its day in silence, reaching out to taste the morning air, its nostrils quivering, seeking scent, cool breezes, distant promise. With every rise and fall of the body, the trunk breathes in the smell of dew-rich earth, of grasses unraveling in sunlight, and the subtle whispers of unseen creatures. Food lies ahead, but first, there is always the ritual. It feels with the sensitive tip, two finger-like protrusions, capable of gentle plucks, capable of grasping a single blade of green. And then, with slow certainty, the feeding begins. Leaves are torn loose in quiet rhythm, wrapped in tenderness, pulled in. A deep breath ripples through the trunk before curling toward the mouth, delivering nourishment inward. Each movement is part instinct, part memory, part feel. It sways with gentle elegance, but holds the strength to tear branches from tall trees, to lift logs, to console a calf, or explore the grooves in a stone, as if reading its lines. It sniffs the bark, testing, learning. The elephant feeds not in haste, but in thought and in care. Sometimes it samples bark, thick and dry, full of fiber and trace minerals, perfect for digestion. Other times, new shoots tempt it into meadows edged with sun. The trunk guides everything, but it also listens. It listens through touch, every surface, every stem, sending soft signals back to the mind. And so, the elephant eats. But the trunk does not only feed the body, it finds water. Subtle shifts in scent guide it to muddy pools or hidden streams, and with it, the elephant drinks. Water is pulled up, sometimes as much as 2 gallons at a time, drawn gently into the trunk's hollow tube and then tilted upward toward the open mouth. Cool streams spill down the throat, quenching thirst, restoring calm. In the midday light, the trunk finds yet another rhythm. It scoops sand, flings dust onto the back, not in mischief, but in wisdom. A fine layer of earth shields the skin from insects and from the harshness of the sun. The elephant rolls, flicks, breathes deeply through it all, as if the soil itself is a balm. And always, the trunk leads the way, touching companions, greeting calves, testing pathways, a bridge between the elephant and the world around it. It feeds without waste, drinks with purpose, protects with grace. The secret of the trunk is not just in what it does, but in how it does it, quietly, patiently, completely in tune with its surroundings. A lesson from the gentle giants in how to live slowly, to breathe deeply, to move with meaning. In the world of the House of Law, daily life was not separate from nature. It was woven through it, gently and with care. Before the ritual bath, there was another kind of preparation, a pattern of foraging, as old as memory. With slow feet and patient hands, they traced the land like a familiar story. The forest tells its time through leaves and light. And those who listened closely learned the rhythms of nourishment and rest. They knew when the tender fiddleheads would arrive, spiraling upward in spring's misty hush. They knew the tang of late berries, the cool sweetness of June's first fruit, and the drying winds of autumn, when the hearty roots and bark would offer themselves. Each offering from the forest was taken with thanks, not in speech, but in silence. In a gaze held to the canopy, in the moment of pause before a harvest, there were days for fruit, for plums like sunset skin or wild cherries, staining fingers and lips, and days for leaves, for curling herbs gathered for steam and salves, drying on white linen in corners of the home. There was birch, pale and clean-scented, its bark stripped in careful bands, boiled gently, it made a tonic to soften the skin. And there were grasses, long and fragrant, used to twine bundles or to line the floors of smoke baths. They held aromas born of earth and rain, a hush of summer, pressed beneath bare feet. The table of leaves, as they called it, was not made of wood. It was a ritual place, of gratitude and use, a cloth laid on soft ground, and each gathered leaf, fruit, or stalk laid in a circle, not simply to sort, but to see and be seen. Children learned these circles early. They learned the names, not just from words, but from smell, texture, the whisper of a stem, foods for the body, and foods for the water. Because even the ritual of bathing began with what the forest gave. Scented infusions would be set aside. Rose hips, chamomile, shredded slivers of cedar or pine, warmed stones held in clay bowls would steep the leaves before the bath. They would sit, legs crossed and quiet, watching hands move in slow elegance over bark and berry. The steam would rise, carry fragrance, and wrap the space like mist. But it all began with gathering, with knowing which plants could be shared and which must be left untouched. There was a respect that bordered on reverence, a knowledge passed through hands rather than books, and it guided each choice made by those who walked in step with the seasons. Not all harvests were for eating. Some leaves were never consumed. They were folded, pressed, burned gently in cleansing fires, their smoke a curtain between self and world. From this table of leaves, care flowed outward, into kitchens, into steam rooms, into the very water where skin and soul were soothed. In the next part of our lore, the ritual of cleansing returns fully. But it stands only because this slow gathering came first. Because no bath was given, only shared, no leaf taken without thanks. And every path through the woods was no less a part of home than the water pooled in a still basin. There is something timeless in the way elephants move through the earth, slow and steady, as if the land itself makes room for their passing. When the midday sun hangs heavy overhead and the warmth of the day presses close, elephants seek more than just shade. They splash the mud with their trunks, cooling it, stirring it, making it just right. Then, deliberately and slowly, they use their trunks to throw the mud across their backs, over their sides, and behind their ears. Layer by layer, the mud clings to the skin, a natural armor against biting insects, and a gentle shield from the sun's fierce rays. As it dries, it forms a patchwork coat, cracked and textured, protecting tender skin beneath. And when it finally flakes off, it takes with it the irritants of the day, stuck soothed and swept away. They look for water, or mud, or a patch of dust warmed by the sun. A mud bath for an elephant is far more than play, it is medicine from the earth. With a deep inhale, they step into a soft, muddy patch, the kind found at the edge of a shrinking waterhole. Beneath it all, the elephant's skin, tough yet sensitive, remains healthy through this ancient ritual. In the heat of the afternoon, elephants turn to water not just for thirst, but for cooling. They drink slowly, deliberately, filling their trunks with gallons of water before sending it into their mouths with a graceful motion. Then, with surprising precision, they draw up more and arch their trunks backward to spray it over their heads and bodies. Cool water runs in rivers down their sides, pooling at their feet, soaking into dry dust. From their earliest moments, young elephants watch and mimic this rhythm, tiny trunks learning the flow of care. Soon, the playful splashes of calves follow, laughter made from water and joy. They roll in shallow pools, sliding sideways, tiny legs paddling as if in dreams. Older elephants join in, serene but amused, letting the water embrace their size. Some will submerge completely, eyes closing, slipping beneath the surface for only a second or two, before rising again with a quiet sigh. And when rain finds them, pouring from dark clouds overhead, elephants do not flee. They welcome it. In these acts, elephants remind the world that water is not just sustenance, it is solace, a gift for the body and the spirit. As the day slowly cools and shadows stretch long, the elephants begin to shake, not in fear or discomfort, but as a ritual, a full body sway, followed by a powerful shake from the shoulders down. Dust and old mud lift into the air, rising like memory. Then a pause, a moment of stillness, before lying back down into the warm soil. Standing still, lifting their heads, letting the drops trace the lines of their ears and tusks, like music from above, rain rolling down over skin still caked with earlier mud. A tender rinse passed from sky to earth. They roll again, big bodies turning with deep satisfaction, back and forth, trunk relaxed, eyes half closed. Even the land seems to welcome them, as if it remembers every elephant that came before and makes room for those still to come. Rain begins gently on the savannah, soft drops falling onto warm earth, tapping rhythmically on the broad leaves and tall grasses. And beneath it all, a movement so slow, so steady, almost like a breath drawn by the land itself. The elephants are walking. Side by side, they travel across dry plains and dense woodlands alike, always steady, always together. There is no rush in their pace, only patience and memory. The matriarch leads, head held high, her ears wide like sails, feeling the changes in wind, in air, in the scent of distant water. Behind her, young calves stay close, tucked between mothers and aunties, guarded in the silence of strength. As droplets gather, collecting in shallow gullies, puddles begin to form along their path. The youngest are the first to notice. Their eyes widen, feet slap eagerly in the water. Small trunks lift playfully. They splash without hesitation. A stomp here, a twirl there, joy in each movement, instinctual delight in the touch of cool water on dry skin. Older elephants watch with easy calm, their eyes slow to blink, their bodies still, until the playfulness catches on. Then, one by one, the herd shifts from walking to pausing, from duty to delight. The rein quickens, a stronger rhythm now, pattering hard on their backs, running down temples and spines. Their great grey skin, thick and wrinkled like folded maps, becomes slick and dark under the rein's embrace. Droplets gather in the deep creases of their legs and backs, soaking gently into the skin they rely on for sun and dust. But now it drinks water as if the sky itself is blessing them. Elephants do not run from the storm, they receive it. They raise their trunks skyward, tasting the air, trumpeting softly, not out of fear, but reverence. In the open landscape, they become statues of stone and memory, still, wide, knowing. When enough rain has fallen, when the earth becomes soft, the rhythm beneath their feet changes again. It is migration not born of haste, but of quiet intention. They have learned the paths taken by generations before them, passed down by scent, by touch, by the feel of earth. A gentle nudge from the matriarch guides them around fallen trees, across rivers, toward known places where the rain always gathers. Their footprints press into the moist soil, like shallow basins, quickly filled by trickles of rainwater. As they move, even the land seems to shift around them, as if nature bends slightly to make room. They know to wait for the waters, to respect the pulse of rain and flood. They know that hasty steps are forgotten steps, and elephants remember everything. So they follow puddles, follow scent, follow the rhythm of storms. To an outsider, it may seem like wandering, but for the elephants, it is a song without words. A melody sung by clouds and wind, by the sound of distant thunder, and the hush that follows lightning. They do not fear the storm overhead. They walk with it, trunks swinging gently, feet steady on the wet earth, skin gleaming under the rainy sky. Their footsteps leave no words, yet the story they tell is as old as dust. There are paths, crisscrossing the savannas and marshes, the dry forests and riverbeds, paths shaped not by roads, but by memory. Elephants have walked these trails for generations, step by step, guided by those who have walked longest. The matriarchs, elder females, lead the herd, not because they are fiercest or strongest, but because they remember. They remember where the rain first falls, where the tall grasses bloom greenest, where the watering holes remain even through the dry seasons, and so the herd follows. In silence, in rhythm, as if keeping time with the land itself. When the sun rises, they are already walking. When the moon glows, they continue still. Their direction is not marked on any map. Instead, it lives in the hearts and minds of the oldest among them. Impressions carried forward, shaped by touch and time. It may have been 50 years ago, or longer, when a young elephant followed the same curves and bends in the land, cooled its skin in the same shaded stream, learnt, quietly, which tree bears fruit, and which holds only thorns. Now, that once young elephant is the elder, surrounded by the footfalls of nieces, nephews, daughters, sons, guiding them toward places they have never seen, but will come to know. This form of knowledge is unwritten, not spoken, not taught from a podium, but walked, felt, absorbed. And so, when danger or drought arrives, when the landscape changes year by year, the elder leads, slow, deliberate, choosing routes that have endured before. Sometimes, the herd may travel for days without rest. Their pace stays gentle, yet constant. Following some silent compass within her mind, they pass by old bones, cracked by time, beneath trees that once shaded their ancestors, along riverbeds dry to the eye, but storing memories below. It is in these moments that we see how knowledge is handed down with each careful step. There is no ceremony, no torch passed, just a shifting of presence, of trust, from one generation to the next. The matriarch may be large and creased with experience, but she moves with a quiet grace, a softness in her tread, an understanding of balance. Those behind her learn this, without knowing they learn it, to listen for distant thunderclouds, to sense wind patterns across the belly, to seek out the smell of water carried on the breeze. These are the ways of elephants, learnt not in a single moment, but through years, and remembered through the rhythm of migration. It is said that some herds retrace the footsteps of their ancestors across hundreds of miles. Though the landscape shifts, though trees fall and rivers change their flow, they still find their way. Perhaps it is not the path that stays, but the memory of what once was, accepted as guide, held with respect. If they pass a long, dry waterhole, the younger ones may not stop, but the matriarch might linger, as if seeing what once was still there. Then she might continue on, the herd behind her following without question, without fear, because they know deep within themselves that she remembers, and that remembering is enough to carry them through all unknown places. She does not lead with command or call, only with knowing, and the herd moves with her as one. Paths, worn deep into the earth, etched more by memory than motion, are walked again and again. Their tracks may fade with time, but the knowledge behind those paths does not. It flows from one mind into many. Here, in this open land shaped by time and memory, a family of elephants moves gently under moonlight. Their steps are slow, thoughtful, and deliberate. At the heart of their journey is one who does not rush. She listens before moving, looks before speaking, and carries all. Her years in the steady beat of her pace, she is the matriarch, and in the dark hush of night, she carries more than just her own weight. She carries the past and the path forward, passed not just by blood, but by movement. And in this quiet act of walking, ancient knowledge travels forward, alive across the plains. Ha! The plains quiet beneath a silver sky, where the stars drift slowly over Africa's dust. Soft horizon. The young ones drift closer to her, their trunks brushing the air with curiosity. But it's her calm that anchors them, her presence like a stone among water. In the soft hours of night, rest must be chosen with care, too open, and danger finds them, too hidden, and they cannot see from where it might come. So she weighs each decision quietly. She feels the faint shift in wind, the low cry of a distant bird, the stillness in the grass before dawn. Her body remembers storms, predators, dry years, and rivers that once ran wide, and in that memory is guidance. She turns toward a patch of steady ground beneath low trees. There, where scent on the breeze brings no alarm, where the earth is cool and still. Some sleep deeply for only brief moments, lying on their sides, legs tucked, trunks curled in a dreamlike loop. Others sway gently on their feet, half in sleep, half aware. Each night, their rest is like an unspoken dance, guided by the matriarch's wisdom, protected by her sense of place and memory. She cannot rest fully, and she does not need to. The elephants gather near her. Some lie with a slow exhale, folding their legs beneath them. Others remain standing, drowsy but alert. Elephants rest in many ways, not all at once, never entirely unguarded. And so a rhythm takes hold. Her strength is not just in body, but in presence. She listens through the darkness, to the breath of her family and the whispers of the wind. Sometimes, the young breathe noisily in their slumber, trunks outstretched, dreaming of water or play. Older ones shift in their sleep, easing pressure from one foot to another, all the while watched over by steady, wise eyes. The matriarch doesn't chase sleep as we do. She accepts it in small sips, trusting her instincts to keep her family safe. Even in dreaming silence, her mind drifts toward the edges of caution. She marks stars, remembers trees. She dreams not alone, but with the weight of all she protects. In this, she teaches without words that rest can come through trust, that safety is a promise made and kept each night anew, close to her. The youngest calf lies tilted like a curled leaf, its breath slow and soft. The matriarch shifts just slightly, enough to touch the little one with her trunk, a drifting memory of sunlight and calm. And so, beneath the wide skies and swaying trees, the elephants sleep, guided by memory, protected by wisdom, and watched over, always, by the quiet strength of the matriarch. Ah! As dusk deepens into night, the savanna softens, its edges blurred by moonlight and stillness. Stars stretch endlessly overhead, quiet witnesses to ancient lives and quiet rituals. Sometimes they lie down fully, pressing their weight into soft ground, sighing into the soil as if letting go. Other times, they remain standing, their legs locked in calm balance, heads low, lids heavy. For them, sleep is a shared space, a moment not only of rest, but of trust. One or two will hover, remaining awake while the others doze. Among the trees and grasses, a family of elephants stands. Some huddle close, others sway gently on their feet, at peace. Elephants, like many who walk the wide earth, need sleep, but they find it differently than we do. The matriarch, often the oldest and wisest, may sleep the least. She remembers paths from generations past, watering holes long buried by time, and in those soft middle hours of the night, while others dream in silence, she may hum, not in words or sharp sounds, but in low vibrations, felt more than heard, a night song. They do this not through roles passed down or spoken plans, but through rhythm, through instinct, and through memory. An unspoken understanding that while one soul dreams, another will keep watch, deep, rolling, comforting. A sound that drifts across skin and heart, telling her family that she is near, that all is well beneath the skies. Some call it infrasonic communication, and indeed, the power of their voices reaches far beyond our hearing. But within these gentle songs, there lies much more than science. There is memory, deep-rooted, enduring. As one calf stirs in its dreams, It leans gently against the body beside it, knowing no fear. The rhythm of the grandmother nearby, swaying in the dark, lulls the rest back toward stillness. Even as they sleep, gentle shifts pass through the group, a subtle alignment, trunk brushing flank, ear against shoulder. This touch carries a language of its own. It speaks of connection, of lineage, of long-forgotten rivers and remembered migrations. They do not dream alone, standing or lying, huddled near or grazing lightly through darkness. They remain, tethered by memory, each step in waking hours tied to the echo of a step before, every moment in slumber shared with the pulse of those beside them. Under starry skies, they rest and remember, not in grand gestures or troubling thoughts, but in the peaceful breath of the herd, the rhythm of safety, the lullaby of the land. Deep within the dust-colored plains and the shaded paths beneath ancient trees, the elephant walks with memory beneath its skin. There is something remarkable about their pace, their patience, the way each step seems to remember the 1,000 that came before. Elephants do not simply move through the landscape. They carry it with them, across years, and even across generations. They remember watering holes long after the rains have faded. A matriarch might lead her family hundreds of miles, guided not by instinct alone, but by careful recollections of a reliable spring from a distant drought season. These ancient sources of life are not marked on any map, but they are imprinted in the mind of the herd, passed through quiet gesture and shared travel. Decades may pass, and still the memory remains. In their daily journey, elephants trace paths known for centuries. They connect food to shade, risk to refuge, unknown to familiar. As the seasons shift and rivers swell and fade, elephants lead the way on these age-old routes, helping other animals follow, helping life continue. And within the mind of the elephant, faces flicker like leaves, worn trails that thread through grasses, bumping along beneath old trees, each bend and dip speaking to places of water, salt, or shelter. These trails are memory made visible, ground worn down by time and the soft press of heavy feet. They remember voices, tones, even the faint scent of another creature from long ago. An elephant might recall a kind human face from 20 years past, or recognize an old companion from a neighboring herd, their bond still intact beneath the passage of time. This gift, the quiet strength of memory, allows elephants to nourish more than themselves. They know when to move, where to go, and who may follow. The flowering of the land depends, at times, on these remembered journeys. When an elephant clears a path through underbrush, it opens corridors for smaller animals and growing things. When it digs into dry earth with tusks and trunk, water hidden beneath the crust can rise. In times of scarcity, they do not hoard what they find. Their habits make life possible for many. Every memory they carry, like a thread in a vast, invisible web, holds together both land and life. It is easy to call it intelligence, but perhaps there is something gentler than that at work, something slow, continuous, and deeply quiet, a way of being that sees time not as a line, but as a circle. Always returning, always patiently remembered. As they walk, the echoes of old paths ring underfoot. It listens, it recalls, it guides. An ancient mind with the softness of earth, and the strength of years, Out on the open plains, beneath a broad sky, the gentle giants we have followed leave more behind than footprints. Every nibble of grass, every fell of a tree, branch, shifts the land in quiet, meaningful ways. As they move through their days, grazing, meandering, and resting, they play the role of ancient gardeners. Their choices, what to eat, where to linger, shape the growth of entire ecosystems. When a herd tramples the undergrowth, it clears paths not just for themselves, but for smaller animals who follow in their wake. And when they reach for low-hanging fruits or dig into soft earth for roots, they break the soil's crust, loosening it for water to flow, for seeds too. Take hold. Their great bodies carry seeds, clinging to their skin, tangled in their tails, or tucked safely in their stomachs. As they wander, those seeds travel further than wind or stream might take them. And after miles of walking, the seeds are left behind, nestled in rich fertilizer. The rumble of past migrations lingers in the air. The elephant does not forget. When an elephant tears bark from a tree, it leaves behind exposed wood, food and shelter for beetles and birds. It is a quiet exchange between animal and plant, a pact written in silence and time. In some forests, entire tree species rely on these travelers, unable to regenerate without help from the herd. Vast trees, whose seeds are too large for birds to carry, find new life only after passing through an elephant. Even in grasslands, hoofed nomads leave trails that mark the landscape for generations. Paths etched into earth, followed by packs, flocks, and solitary wanderers alike. Where hooves press the ground flat, rain gathers, new shoots break through crushed grass, and fresh growth invites insects to visit. The herd has no plan, no map, no list of species to help. And yet, help they do. Their search for food, their steady migration, pushes life forward in every direction. Many animals flourish in their shadow. The oxpecker bird rides along, dining on ticks and mites that hide in thick hide. Dwarf mongooses watch the great shapes pass, using the cleared ground as safer territory. Even butterflies flutter after, drawn by flowering plants that emerge in the wake of stirred soil. They are gardeners, yet also architects. Lakes formed by their wallowing bodies hold water long after they leave. Paths between feeding grounds become rivers when the rains return. And shade-loving plants take root under trees sculpted by selective feeding. These friendships, these subtle alliances, reveal a truth written into the wild. That cooperation, even unspoken and unintended, helps life endure. That in giving to the land, each step feeds another's future. The herd walks on, unaware of the lives nurtured in their path. But the land remembers. And when the wind brushes through tall grass, when birds call from reshaped branches, it tells a quiet story. A story of friendship, across species, across time. A story still unfolding, with every gentle step. The quiet landscape of the forest changes little by little as night falls. In the fading light, a low breeze rustles the tall grasses, and somewhere in the shadows, a small shape flutters between the branches. A bird, perhaps a drongo, follows the slow movement of an elephant below. This is not uncommon. In the old forests of Asia and Africa, certain birds and elephants have developed curious friendships over hundreds, perhaps thousands, of years. The drongo, clever and ever watchful, signals with chirps and clicks. alert calls that help elephants stay aware of lurking dangers. In return, the prowling movement of a herd may stir up insects, which the bird hungrily snaps from the air. It is a quiet agreement, spoken not in language, but presence. Observing them, one wonders how such unlikely paths came to align. An elephant's ears hear well over long distances. A bird's sharp eyes see what the elephant may overlook. They balance each other in the way only nature can allow. And not just birds, small animals like mongooses, squirrels, even frogs nestled in quiet mud may share overlapping rhythms with the gentle giants. These relationships are not built in a moment, nor ever forced. Instead, they arise slowly, through patience, through time spent in shared spaces. The elephant, large and deliberate, moves without hurry. Animals feel this pace. They recognize the absence of threat. In regions where elephants have shared their world with people, there are stories, too, of understanding across species. A mahout might recall how an elephant paused its journey, alerted not by sound, but by the shifting shadows of companion birds. Sometimes the bird hops close, making eye contact, tapping its beak. The elephant stills, listens. Together, they notice what would have gone unseen alone. There is no need for words, only shared presence. We often look at animals with human eyes, but in these ancient bonds, we find a kind of listening that reaches deeper. Not every elephant seeks the presence of birds, not every bird follows herds. But now and then, in the soft corners of the world, two lives walk together, without command, without reason, just a rhythm in harmony. Night comes slowly over the forest as the bird settles into a high perch, and the elephant lowers her trunk into still water. A frog, whose pond remains undisturbed by her tread, croaks a low thank you. Even silence becomes a form of conversation. These are voices beyond the herd, whispers exchanged in movement and breath, in tension eased, in trust given without question. Tradition lives not only in stories passed between people, breathing the same wind, listening to footsteps, shaping small paths through a great and ancient world. Across continents, from the dense savannas of Africa to the deep jungles of Asia, the elephant has long stood as a bridge between nature and culture. For thousands of years, people have walked alongside these gentle giants, not just in fields or forests, but in stories, celebrations, and sacred belief, but also in lives that walk gently alongside one another. In Africa, elephants are often seen as symbols of wisdom and memory. They appear in proverbs, in family tales, and even in the rhythms of drum songs passed through generations. Some African communities say elephants carry the spirits of elders, always watching, always remembering, guiding the land and its people with quiet strength. In Asia, particularly in India and Thailand, the elephant has been woven into the very fabric of spiritual life. Lord Ganesha, the revered deity with the head of an elephant, is a bringer of peace, luck, and new beginnings. In temple processions, elephants once walked in regal elegance, dressed in golden nettings and painted in vibrant patterns. They were not just animals, but vessels of divine energy and community pride. Even today, sacred festivals still honor these traditions, though fewer and quieter than before. But time brings change, and tradition begins to strain beneath the weight of modern life. The deep respect once held for elephants sometimes slips into something complicated, something blurred by demand and distance from nature. In places where elephants were once honored, they now face decisions shaped by tourism, economics, and loss of habitat. The trained elephants of temple grounds or cultural parades are often caught between expectation and well-being. Many are separated from their forest families, raised in captivity for display or performance, where rest is scarce and comfort uncertain. Wild herds, too, no longer roam without bounds. They find fences where paths used to be, and roads where forests once stood. In regions of Africa, herds must now cross farmland instead of open wilderness, sometimes leading to tension and difficult choices. And yet, echoes of the old reverence remain. In both Africa and Asia, communities are working tenderly, cautiously, to reconnect that ancient bond. Villagers crafting peaceful corridors for migration. Elders teaching younger generations the importance of coexistence, not just as tradition, but as necessity. Some sanctuaries and wildlife reserves are emerging with new purpose, not as displays, but as havens, where elephants can simply be what they are, quiet, powerful, deeply connected to the earth. In the gentle sway of an elephant step, some still hear the rhythms of ancestral memory, of kinship older than any map. The tales we tell of elephants are not just stories about animals. They are chapters of ourselves, how we've grown, how we've wandered, and now how we might remember and return. So as tradition meets tomorrow, there is hope in the still small gestures of care, in lantern festivals held for rescued herds, in songs sung to calves born in protected valleys, and in every child who watches an elephant, not with awe alone, but with wonder, respect, and quiet love. The forest breathes with a quiet rhythm, a pulse that has long measured the turning of seasons, the wandering of animals, the flowering of trees. But today, that rhythm is changing, not with a roar, not with a storm or fire, but with something quieter, more gradual, and harder to notice unless you're looking for it. This slow retreat has been called habitat loss. But those words barely touch the complexity of what it means. Forests once connected like great green rivers have become islands of woodland, scattered and separated. Where animals once roamed freely across wide spaces, now they find fences, highways, and human boundaries that stop them short. The silent threat. Across the world, natural places have begun to retreat, inching backward from the edges of cities, roads, and settlements. The paths they used for food, water, or mates have become cut off, altered, or erased, and so some vanish quietly, not from a single disaster, but from the slow erosion of the space they need to live. Poaching, too, casts a long shadow. For some creatures, it is not just the loss of home, but the constant risk of being hunted. Even in protected lands, beautiful horns, shimmering scales, rare pelts, these treasures of the wild are taken, sold, and turned into symbols of status or fortune. But the cost is hidden deep in the forests and rivers where fewer voices now stir. Climate change brings another layer of quiet threat. Not all creatures can adapt when a river shifts its course or a wetland falls dry. Some depend on very specific patterns, rains that come at the right time, temperatures just so. When those patterns start to wobble, even slightly, eggs may not hatch, Flowers may bloom too early. Migrations can stop before they start. These are subtle effects, but over time, they reshape entire ecosystems. Water, once so steady in its cycles, is now less predictable. Some lakes vanish season by season. Others flood when they never used to. Towns grow into cities. Farmland spreads toward the horizon. Roads etch lines across the landscape. Often without realizing it, we draw invisible fences around the wild. By day, the signs are plain. New parking lots, concrete walls, bustling traffic. By night, artificial. Lights dim the stars and disorient the creatures of the dark. This inconsistency ripples outward. A single dry year might mean the failure of a nesting season. Too many dry years, and an entire population may disappear. And through it all, human expansion continues. The wilderness becomes a mosaic, patches of nature fringed by people. Even the sound of engines and machines can change the behaviors of animals. Some move away from the noise, others grow silent, more cautious, less visible. But despite all this, there is still hope. There are places where nature is healing, efforts being made, steps being taken, where people recognize the threat and choose to face it with care. That hope is what we turn to now. And so, we draw near to the softest edge of our long journey. Through forests and valleys, mountains and coasts, we have wandered slowly and gently, listening to the echoes of those who walked before us. The earth remembers. Its stories are told in quiet mosses, in the turning of waves, in the hush of twilight fog. Sometimes they are whispered by the wings of a bird returned home. Sometimes in the silent regrowth of a once burned field. There are places now where life has crept back, where once empty wetlands hum again with frogs and dragonflies, where coral, pale and broken in years past, glows once more with color beneath the calm of warm water. These are not tales of rescue, not victories to cheer, but soft turning moments, like the moon shifting behind clouds, gentle hands planting saplings, careful voices teaching the old ways anew, communities choosing stillness instead of speed. These are the quiet stories of conservation that do not shout, but they remain. They shape the future in small, invisible ways. Understanding is a kind of light, and the more we learn to listen to the land, the clearer that light begins to appear. Each footstep we take in care, each moment we choose slowness, becomes a hope passed forward. In the footsteps of those who tended the world before us, we begin again, not to conquer, not to possess, but to walk with, to build a future that hums with stillness, with clean air, with slow rivers drifting through green hills. The future belongs to the gentle, to the listeners, and the watchers, and the ones who pause. Let us walk into that gentle future together, with hope, stepping softly as the forest would, with peace, flowing slowly as a hidden stream, and with a quiet prayer, not of words, but of actions, that we may be kind to what is wild, kind to what is fleeting, kind to ourselves. Let this be the story we leave behind, a whisper of care carried on the breeze, a sheltered nest built one twig at a time, a world shared more gently than before. Let sleep find you now, safe beneath the canopy of quiet knowing. Let each breath drift softer than the one before. Let the night wrap around you, like the deep hush of old forests. And in that stillness, may you feel the pulse of the earth nearby. There will be challenges ahead, there always are. But there will also be quiet champions and soft courage. I believe in the kind of strength that lies not in shouts, but in patience, in the steady hand, planting seeds that may not grow until long after we rest. Steady, kind, endlessly patient.